you can't just take someone's word for it. In fact, sometimes you can't even take your own blood work for it when it comes down to determining if you're magnesium deficient or not. Honestly, if you know the signs, you can do the math yourself. And the cool thing is, it's an easy fix when it comes down to getting more magnesium. So in this video, I'm gonna break down what I would consider the top 8 signs that you're magnesium deficient. And ultimately, if you have a couple of these or a few of them, you probably are deficient in magnesium. And more than likely, if you're watching this video, you probably are somewhat deficient as is. Simply because our food these days is so deprived of minerals, it's really difficult to get what we need, especially in the way of magnesium, because it's such an abundantly powerful mineral in our bodies. If we're deficient in it, it causes a lot of problems. Hey, we have new videos coming out almost every single day these days, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time sharp. So we've got new content coming out. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button and then go ahead and hit that bell icon so you can turn on notifications. Also, after this video, I want you to check out Thrive Market. So if you're someone that's eating healthy, you're doing keto, you're doing intermittent fasting, or you're just honestly just trying to live a healthy lifestyle in general, you're gonna wanna check out Thrive Market. They're an online grocery store. So they make it so you can literally get what you would get at the grocery store, but have it shipped to your doorstep for less price than what you would pay at the grocery store. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Plus also, I've been able to create my keto box, my fasting box, my hormone optimization box, all just different boxes with different types of groceries in it, things that I would recommend that my viewers utilize. So after this video, go ahead and click on that link and check them out. All right, let's go ahead and let's move into the 8 signs. Number 1, you're getting muscle cramps. Okay, this is probably the first sign. Most people will tell you it's a potassium issue. Usually it's a magnesium issue. You see, it has to do with ion transportation. What happens is magnesium binds to specific receptor sites on the membrane of a cell. Now, when it binds to the membrane of a cell, or these receptor sites, it essentially opens up the transportation pathway for other minerals to get in. So if other minerals can't get in, then we're not in balance. So then we might have a couple of one mineral, but not enough of another. So it ends up making it so the muscle cell is out of balance and ultimately can't send a signal, so the muscle cramps. So this is usually a sign that magnesium is deficient. If you were deficient in potassium, you'd still get a lot of these other minerals in there because magnesium was still present to at least let them in. If magnesium isn't present, then minerals aren't getting in, and that's the first line of defense, the first thing you'd want to change. The next one is going to be sleeplessness. Okay, if it's sort of a sudden onset, something that you never really had an issue with before, it's a good sign that it is magnesium related. You see, what happens is magnesium activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we don't have a lot of magnesium, we're stuck in what's called the sympathetic nervous system. Our muscles are tight, we're anxious, we can't sleep. It sucks, it's miserable. Now what happens is when you have magnesium in the equation, it activates not only the parasympathetic nervous system, but it activates what's called GABA receptors. So gamma-aminobutyric acid receptors. GABA is the portion of your brain that allows you to get relaxed. Okay, we have 2 different phases, GABA and glutamate. If we're too high in the glutamate scale, our brain is wired. So when we don't have enough GABA, because when we're deficient in magnesium, our brain is just on. Okay, it's like your body's tired, but your brain just won't let you sleep because your GABA levels are out of whack. So obviously, this is a clear sign of magnesium deficiency. It could be a bigger issue, but if you've got these other things that are going on that I'm including in this video, you probably know where to start. Now, the next one is going to be not dealing with stress as well. Now, we all are under stress. Okay, this day and age, life moves fast, the world moves fast, we're probably dealing with some stress, but have you noticed recently that you're just not able to cope as well? Like you feel like it's just overwhelming you a lot more than it used to? Well, for one, it's probably GABA related, just like I talked about with the sleep issue. You're not getting enough GABA, so your brain is just wired and it's on all the time, so it's making you a little bit more stressed out. But there was also a pretty cool study that was published in the Journal of Neuropharmacology that found that there's a direct relationship with magnesium deficiency and elevated levels of cortisol. They found that it specifically activated something known as the paraventricular hypothalamic nucleus. Now, this is the portion of the brain that reacts to stress or responds to stress, and we want it to be in balance. If it's too much activity or too little activity, it affects our ability to deal with stress. So in this case, we usually have too much activity going on, not enough GABA to lessen the activity there, so that part of the brain is making us reactive. We're like extremely reactive. You get an email, boom, you want to respond to it and deal with it, instead of being able to be calm, cool, and collected and deal with it later, right? So if you're noticing this, it's a big thing. Okay, the next one is going to be weak joints and weak bones. Now, weak bones is a pretty strong call to action, right? You usually have to break something to be able to know that you broke a bone. If your doctor has diagnosed you with osteoporosis, obviously magnesium might be in the equation already, but joints are a big part too, because joints play a pretty big role in just our overall stability, and we can usually feel a joint issue before we feel an actual bone issue. Joints get weak because the cartilage gets weak and the bones get weak and you get bone spurs and all this and that. Well, it has to do with vitamin D. You see, vitamin D, in order to turn into its active form, requires magnesium. So in order for vitamin D to actually be utilized and actually allow our bones and joints to get strong, we need magnesium. Now, another thing we have to pay attention to is without magnesium, we don't have something known as calcitonin. Calcitonin is what allows calcium to leave the bloodstream and get into the bone. Lots of calcium is not good. Lots of calcium in the bones is good, but lots of calcium in general is not good. Without magnesium, we don't activate calcitonin and we don't get the calcium out of the bloodstream and into the bone. So that's a big thing there. If you're starting to feel just, again, muscle cramps, you're feeling weak, you're not sleeping, and your joints are hurting, well, there you go. You probably have a magnesium deficiency. But that's not all. Let's go on to number 5, which is muscle weakness. Okay, directly, if you are going into the gym or you are going for a walk and you're just like, my muscles just aren't activating as well, nothing's working. It's called hypokalemia. Okay, this is actually a potassium deficiency, but it's not because you're not getting enough potassium. It's because you're not getting enough magnesium that is therefore causing a chain reaction that tells your body to excrete potassium. So because you're deficient in magnesium, your body goes through this process of trying to find homeostasis and actually forces you to excrete potassium. So when you have a decrease in magnesium, it essentially activates what are called ROMK channels that encourage the kidneys to flush out potassium. So this can get exacerbated if you're not getting enough sodium too. So if you're not getting enough sodium and you're not getting enough magnesium, then you have an influx of what's called aldosterone, which causes your body to hold on to water and sodium while simultaneously flushing out potassium. So if you are getting weak, plus you feel like you're retaining water, this is probably what's going on. That magnesium deficiency and sodium deficiency is playing a big role. So again, you gotta get the magnesium in that case. Number 6 is going to be high blood pressure. Okay, so now you're trying to think, wait a minute, what the heck's going on? My blood pressure's high too. It's more than likely not a sodium issue. Okay, we've talked about that in other videos. Sodium has less of an effect on blood pressure than sugar does, but magnesium, or lack thereof, plays a really big role. You see, magnesium increases what's called prostacyclin, and it also helps out nitric oxide. Now we need these mechanisms within the body. Okay, prostacyclin is going to end up making it so that you have less platelet activation, so your blood isn't thickening too much. Now, if your blood is moving nice and freely and it's thin enough, it's going to make it so that your blood pressure isn't super high. Okay, what it's going to do is it's also going to vasodilate by relaxing the endothelial layer of the arteries. Okay, so the endothelial part of the arteries is actually like the active muscular form. If that part is relaxed, blood can flow through it, and nitric oxide does this. You need magnesium for prostacyclin and for overall nitric oxide. So very, very important there. Number 7 is going to be constipation. This is a simple one, so I won't spend a whole lot of time. We have muscles in our digestive system and in our colon. Everything is moving, right? Okay, so we have little bits of movement that require magnesium to relax. If these muscles, if you want to call them that, are tight, then things aren't moving, okay? It's tight, it's not gonna move. Okay, but when you have magnesium in the equation, then it's relaxed. That's why if you take a bunch of magnesium citrate, or even a little of that matter, you end up running to the bathroom because it dramatically relaxes that area. Okay, we don't need to go that far. We just need to have enough magnesium to make sure that we're not getting too tight down there so that things actually work, okay? Now, last but not least is going to be number 8, which is you're seriously fatigued. It's a general statement, but it's very important to note. Magnesium is required for all energy production. The ATP that we talk about, adenosine triphosphate, the actual energy molecule that literally is energy that's created at the cellular level, well, it technically should actually be called magnesium ATP because that adenosine triphosphate is actually bound to magnesium. And if it doesn't get bound to magnesium, it doesn't create energy. So literally every iota of energy in our body has to be bound to magnesium. And the first thing that you're going to feel is just fatigue as your body doesn't produce as much of the ATP as it should. It's still trying to produce it, but it's not getting that end result. So you're just getting fatigued as if you're creating energy, but you're never reaping the benefits of actually having it. So this is just the breakdown of it. If you have 3 or more of these symptoms all tying together, you are probably deficient in magnesium and need to take some steps to make a couple changes, whether it means eating the right food or getting proper supplementation. As always, make sure you're keeping it locked in here on my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.